Chapter 33 of The Bigger Picture. Thoughts around angels. I love working with angels, and over the years I took several different courses on working with angels and archangels. One of the highlights was meeting Carl Gray, author and spiritual teacher who really knows his stuff where angels are concerned. But long before I knew what I know now, I had this experience. I met Jane in November and we got chatting about this and that. She told me that she had been having problems with a presence in her house and it was affecting her children. Her young son James was having real problems sleeping and had started refusing to go to bed at night because of these people in his room. Jane resorted to letting her younger child, Jessica, sleep in the same room to give James a little comfort. But it was far from ideal. Jessica started to refer to people as James's friends, and it became apparent that she could sense them too, but it didn't quite seem to bother her as it did James. Jane's husband was totally freaked out by the whole thing and wouldn't even discuss it. When I met Jane, she was at the end of her tether and didn't know what to do to make these people leave. She, too, could feel their presence and had asked them to leave, but to no effect. I explained that, in my experience, these people lingered close to property and earthly things because they couldn't accept that they were dead and they didn't know how to leave or what to do next. It usually took someone who knew what they were doing to coax the people to leave and guide them onwards. As it happened, Jane knew someone who was a medium, so I suggested she ask her to visit the house and see if she could help in any way. It was about this time that my introduction to the archangels began, and it seemed everywhere I went, signs from the angels were leaping out at me. Now, I wasn't sure about these angels, but I did a little research on the internet and discovered that there were many of them, and they all have their own specific work to do. Archangel Michael protects and cuts the ties of things that we no longer need. Archangel Raphael is the healer, and Archangel Gabriel is the teacher and messenger. There are many more angels who all have their own jobs to do, but they can only help if we ask them, as they cannot impose on our free will. I began to think more about these angels, and I will admit to asking Archangel Raphael to help with a couple of my own health issues, all with good outcomes. I started to wonder if Archangel Michael might be able to help with Jane's problem and help to lead James's friends to where they need to be. But then I thought that if I mentioned it to her, she would think I'd lost the plot and we wouldn't speak again. But this kept nagging at me. I wanted to help this family and the little boy who was being troubled and afraid to go to sleep in case these people took him away. After all, I knew how he felt, as I had a similar experience with Grandad's picture in my bedroom when I was a child. I next saw Jane and the children just before Christmas. Nothing had changed, and she felt she could ask her medium, and she hadn't felt that she could ask her medium friend for help. I also met her husband, and he admitted that he was totally freaked out by the whole thing. Although he couldn't feel anything, he wasn't happy at all with the effects it was having on his family. Archangel Michael popped into my mind, and I found myself blurting it out to Jane. This was a bit bizarre, but I hadn't decided at that point to say anything. I explained to Jane what Michael could do and told her to ask him to help cutting the earthly ties of these people so that they could go on their way and take the next step on their journey. We agreed she had nothing to lose, so yes, she said she would give it a try. Jane and I met several months later, and her first words were, "Your Archangel Michael worked." It seems their people had left the house, excuse me, and the family have no further problems. James is sleeping much better, and he also asked Michael for protection. I am overjoyed that it worked for them as a family, and little James is no longer troubled. Of course, I'm also very pleased to have proof that Archangel Michael is A, out there somewhere, and B, answers our requests. Yes, I know I shouldn't need proof, but sometimes we all have a few little wobbles. I must just add here that Archangel Michael is not mine. He's here for everyone. But you do have to ask him for help. Jane also told me that she is now keen to explore and discover all things spiritual, and that she has joined a meditation group and, at her first session, had an amazing experience. So, if you need protection, healing, guidance, all you have to do is just ask.